Hey, it's Bradley J, and welcome to On the Air with Bradley J, episode 2. And we are joined today by Alternate Shadows member and writer of Pantomimes, Helen Bradshaw. Helen, thank you very much for joining me this evening.
My absolute pleasure.
So we are approaching January and February. I think when this goes out, it'll be early January. So Panto will just be beginning. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this year's pantomime?
This year's pantomime is The Pied Piper. Now, The Pied Piper, I know, can be quite a dark tale, as can most fairy tales, but we've added a bit of alternate shadows magic to it and given it a bit of a positive spin. And The Pied Piper, I've always felt very sorry for. I always think he gets a bit of bad press, misunderstood. So
Hmm.
in our version, he's slightly different sort of character who gets a bit hoodwinked. So hopefully not the dark, scary tale that people are quite used to.
It's a very family friendly script, as it always is, except for that one time we did an adult version. But yes,
Nothing to do with me.
no, you're very much hands off on that one. But yeah. So as far as pantomimes are concerned, you've been writing for pantomimes ever since I've known you in Alternate Shadows. This is my sixth panto. You've written every single one. But before that, how long have you been writing pantomimes for?
I started writing pantos with the previous drama group that I was involved in, a group called United Players, and that sort of has transferred over into Alternate Shads. I think with Alternate Shads, I've this is going to be the ninth panto I've written. We I think I've done probably about 13 or 14 pantos, but out of those nine are ones which have been written by me. In the early days, Mick, one of our other members, and John,
Mhm.
my husband, we collaborated. I think the first sort of panto that we did for Alternate Shads was a collaboration between the three of us. So that was Dick Whittington, and that must have been 2012. It was 2012 because we had lots of Olympic, or 2012 into 2013 because we had lots of Olympic jokes with the Dame as the Queen parachuting in, and so yeah, I can date that one to 2012.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, like I said, I've been involved in six. I think I've done with you now Cinderella, Rapunzel, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Rumpelstiltskin, Aladdin, and Pied Piper this year.
Yeah.
Um, are you allowed to say what next year's one's going to be?
Next year, we're probably going to go down the route of Mother Goose. It's one that we have never tackled.
Mhm.
Alternate Shads has never tackled, but yeah, we've had a bit. I know we've always shied away from it because a goose costume can be a bit
Yeah.
complicated. But actually, we're going down a slightly different route with the goose costume. I'm not going to say what we're going to do, but there will be Priscilla the goose. She will be there. Yeah, so Mother Goose is what we're looking to do, and then maybe we possibly will do Sleeping Beauty for the
Ooh,
year after. Yeah.
fantastic.
So yeah, it's all stacking up.
Excellent. Excellent. I mean, as far as pantomime is concerned, how when do you start writing pantomimes?
Oh dear. Well, I tend to start as we are well, not writing, but researching. I tend to
Mhm.
start researching as we're rehearsing the current pantomime. So I've been thinking about next year's pantomime now because your brain is in pantomime
Yeah.
mode. So I would say, from September of a sort of a year and a half before, I'll start thinking and playing around with jokes and sort of collecting routines. And then, bathe myself in professional pantomime. I go to professional pantomimes quite a lot, and that's research, of course,
Mhm.
not just merely fun for me, ho ho. But yeah, so I'll start playing around. I don't actually start putting words into people's mouths until probably Easter time before we start rehearsing in September. So it's a bit like I feel a bit like a gardener. You go and sort of peruse your catalogues and you pick your best seeds and then you plant them and you let them grow and nurture. So that's a bit sort of pantomime how I develop my pantos.
Oh,
Probably just because I'm very
fantastic.
lazy and it takes a long time to let the ideas flow.
No, 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 still. I mean, it's a long old process, writing a show of that length, and yeah, it will take some time, and it's pretty incredible that it sort of takes you what, a year and a half to sort of from start to end. I mean, how do you decide which panto is being done each year?
Well, I suppose it depends where inspiration falls. Sometimes I mean, in the early days, we hadn't really done any panto, so there was a whole smorgasbord of themes out there. As the years have progressed, we've ticked off lots of the classics, so it very much sort of falls as to where inspiration lands. Suddenly you'll hear something, you'll see something, you think, oh, that would work really well in Cinderella or whatever, and you sort of go off in that direction. Quite often you have a few false starts. You'll sort of go down the Cinderella route and actually discover it was Aladdin that you should have been writing all along. So
Mhm.
it's I think that's why it takes me so long. I just like to experiment and play around and sort of see where the inspiration lies. Then obviously chatting to Richard, our director, because
Mhm.
he is the person who's driving all of this, and we'll have sort of big discussions. So the early days, I'd come forward with two or three ideas and say, which one would you like me to go for? But now, as we've ticked off the classics, I tend to go to him and say, oh, what about such and such? And
Yeah.
that's the way it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a particular process for writing? I mean, you mentioned obviously going to pantos for inspiration, but is there a particular process? Is there a mood that you have to set yourself to when you're writing the script?
Yeah, it does. I have to, as I say, it's a bit like a seed germinating. So I have to spend a long time just observing life,
Mhm.
and then collecting jokes, collecting routines. I've got notebooks coming out of my ears with all sorts of bits and pieces in.
Yeah,
So the first part of the process is just sort of being open, seeing what's out there, reading jokes, looking at routines, thinking. And then once we get into sort of the new year, once we've performed our panto, and I've read the audience reaction to, which bits they're liking, which bits they're not liking, what's fallen flat this year, what we could do more of. Then I start putting a structure together of,
Mhm.
okay, we're going to have, this number of scenes and of this length of time. And actually, I need a routine at this point and a routine at that point. And I don't actually start putting the words in until the very last minute. That's the very last thing that
Mm.
comes. And for that, I need because I work full time now, so I've got to do that over a period when I'm not at work because I need just to be able to have a week or so just to write and be there. If you write a bit and go away for a few days and come back, it takes so much longer to get back into the flow. So I tend to leave the writing until, sort of Easter,
Mm.
May onwards when I can take a chunk of time off and devote it. So yeah, it sort of starts with just thinking, then pooling ideas, and then putting the structure together.
Excellent. And obviously, there's a lot of music, there's a lot of dancing, a lot of high energy scenes. Do you find it easier to write the actual scripting, the actual dialogue, or do you find it easier to write the action scenes and dances?
That's a very good question. Often it's the action scenes and the sort of funny dances that come first, and the
Mhm.
dialogue that will come afterwards. The action and the funny scenes tend to be the things that I sort of get clearer in my mind as part of the structure. The words, I suppose, are the harder thing because I leave that to last, and they then often go off in directions and have lots and lots of false starts with those. I tend to be more definite in my structures, so I think probably the words are the hardest, and the sort of the action packed stuff is easier. And that's what pins the panto. That's where we start. We know we're going to
Yeah,
have something for the audience to join with here, and the chase there, and the slapstick at this point, and then I can sort of weave
yeah.
the story around it.
I mean, as far as Pied Piper is concerned, one thing that's sort of abundant in rehearsals is there is a lot more dancing in it this year. It's Oh, rehearsals are a lot more tiring than they have been previous. I don't know if it's me getting older or what, but oh goodness, it's quite tough. But it
Yeah.
looks great when it all comes together. As far as musical choices are concerned, that they've always been unique, and it's quite something that in the times that I've been doing it, I haven't seen a single, well, aside from a fanfare here and there, I
Yeah.
haven't seen any music be repeated. How do you sort of decide what music is going to be used each time?
It's a bit self-indulgent. I think in each of the pantos, it's a bit like Helen's Desert Island discs because, bits of my collection will come on in there. And it's really funny, actually. Quite often we often listen to music if we're on long journeys. and a bit of music will come on the radio or a CD. I think, oh my goodness, I've got an idea for this. I was at a classical concert once, and they did I can't think what it was, but I could just forget what the orchestra are doing. I could visualize a chase scene. So it's yeah, so often it's stuff that I hear. Sometimes where we're stuck, I'll just sort of Google and search for music in a certain theme. So some of the
Mm.
music I've never heard but it does take a long time. During lockdown, when I was writing, I had a family working downstairs. I think they got a bit fed up with me because I spent about 3 days solid just researching music and playing all sorts of different tunes for stuff. So yeah, so some of it is stuff I know. Some of it is stuff I'm suddenly inspired with across the year. And
Mm.
then some of it, I heard a track today. We're on a long journey today, and I thought, oh, I'm a Kasabian track. I must incorporate that into this is going to be Mother Goose. So I've got some music from Mother Goose already. But some of it I just have to physically search and see what's out there. I'm broadening my own musical knowledge throughout this.
I can I can totally relate as far as picking up sort of ideas as you go. Suddenly you'd be out and about and you'll have an idea for something, and then so in my time it's my time occasion it's I think of a joke or just a pun, and I'll turn that into a whole 2 3 minute sketch. I mean, we did a video together about a trip to the doctor, and it was just a case of I just came up with a pun and then another one and another one. And before you know it, we had a really good little script. And that was a really fun one to do that. And yeah, I know that obviously you've got a very similar sense of humor to me as far as that's concerned. So it's like, well, you're the person to pick really for that.
So you're exactly right. It's often, but when
Mm,
I'm writing cantos, quite often I don't. When I'm getting to the words bit, it's not a sequential thing. Sometimes
mm.
there's a pun, there's a line that will go really well in a certain scene. So I will add that line in, and then build the dialogue around that particular line. But inspiration does strike in really weird ways. We do a lot of walking, and quite often we're sort of out in the middle of the countryside, pounding along, and I suddenly get an idea. Like I think we were halfway up a mountain in Italy, where I suddenly decided what the two dames, that the ugly sisters, were going to be called in Cinderella. I suddenly blurted out Teresa and May, and John said, what are you talking about? Have some water, sunstroke time. But yeah, it's at the weirdest times that you get
Yeah.
these bits of inspiration. Always got to sleep with a notepad beside my bed because you often wake up in the middle of the night thinking, oh right, yeah, must put that
Oh
down.
God, I have one too. Yeah, I do. I have a notepad by my bed. I drifting off the other night. I was having difficulty sleeping, and YouTube ads kept coming on for what I was listening to try and go to sleep. I'm like, okay, I can turn this into something funny, and that's something I'm going to be doing in the new year. But it's just an idea like that. The problem is I couldn't then switch off because I wanted to write it there and then. But I've always I now carry around a little dictaphone with me. So if I come up with an idea, dictaphone, write it and listen to it later and think, is that still funny? Yeah, it is. I'll turn that. Um, yeah, of course the other thing is it's not just the pantos that you get involved in. You've always had a part in there. But it's the murder mysteries as well, something we've done a lot of together. Um, I know I tell this story every time I'm around you, but I feel I have to. It's the first murder mystery I was in. I think you were alongside me, and we had some sound issues. One week the sound went off. It was a gunshot that went off too early. Another one, it just didn't go off at all, and it's just having to come up with something. I think we were going back and forth for ages, saying, "Okay, what did he say? Oh, I can't believe what he said." It's still to this day. There's not many people who I could have done that with, and it would have been as funny or as memorable as far as that's concerned. And just oh, you've it's fantastic. And yeah, anytime you want to anytime you're we want to talk to you, you're always available. And yeah, it's always a pleasure having you in the cast. And just even if it's just someone to talk to, someone to bounce ideas off, and different, yeah, it's always a pleasure to see you there.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's with alternate shads, it's all teamwork, isn't it? And you're
Yeah.
absolutely right about it's because the murder mysteries are so much improvisation, you've got to have
Mm.
confidence with the person that's on stage with you, and it's all in the eyes, isn't it? If you can look somebody in the eyes and you're getting that conversation back and forward, it's all okay. But it's and that's the lovely thing about this group. It's not the sort of preciousness that you have with many other groups. It
Yeah,
is a real camaraderie, and it just gives you license to have fun. And as a performer, if you're having fun, the audience are more likely to have fun. If you're bored with what you're
absolutely.
doing, the audience are going to be bored, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to Panto, obviously you've been doing this for quite a while now. Are there any particular sequences, characters, or jokes that stand out as I'm still proud that I wrote that one?
I think that my favorite sequence was going back to something I said before when I was in a classical concert. I know it was the William Tell Overture, I think. I'm sure it was the William Tell Overture. And we built a whole decorating sequence around it. And I could just sort of visualize what was going on. And it was Tina and I who were doing the slapstick. We spent a whole evening rehearsing this particular slapstick, which was choreographed to within an inch of its life. But I think that was the one that I was most proud of in terms of just the idea. I visualized it, and it was just such a lot of fun exhausting, really
Yeah,
exhausting, but such a lot of fun to do. So, but yeah, what I love about this group is though it's the way everything evolves. I give the script over to Richard, he then presents it to the cast, and everybody contributes and takes things to a different level. Stuff that, I think the solid core of where I wanted to go is there, but then everybody, the cast, the director, add all the sort of decorations, and it's a bit like a Christmas tree, isn't it? You have a nice Christmas tree, and then the Christmas tree takes form and comes to life with all the decorations that's added on, and that's it's a collaborative process that makes it, and that's what I love as well. I think
yeah.
maybe forget the decorating sequence. It's presenting something and seeing how everybody else can work alongside and just bring it to life, but still, the vision is there, people get it. I think we're all of a similar mind, aren't we?
Absolutely. I mean, we
Yeah,
we all want to put on the best show possible, or at least
yeah,
have a lot of fun doing it. And as long
yeah,
as people go away saying that was really great, there's
yeah.
still people to this day. Last year, I was Princess Jasmine. I think the first year we worked together, you said, "I'm going to get you to do drag." And it's like
Yeah.
took a while, but yes, you got me. And you know what? It was fun doing something different. And people still to this day, I don't know if it's the spectacle of me with the blue fingernails and blue toenails or what it was, but they still come up to me and say, "Well, I can't believe you played Jasmine. It was really good." It's just
The pink
yeah,
chiffon.
it was just
Bradley J in pink chiffon.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd do it again, just maybe a few years time.
Yeah, absolutely. But baddie, maybe that's where you need to go next.
Oh man, I would
Embrace your evil,
love
inner
to
evil.
play the villain. I think that's the one thing I haven't done yet is the villain, and so I'd
Yeah.
love to be able to do that. But
But I
yeah,
have to say, you're making a marvelous, marvelous comedy duo partner. I mean, it's just hilarious watching your face this year. Really, really
oh
funny. Cracks me up every time.
yeah. I mean, I've got more confidence. I think the last time I did it, I was Mucket in Rapunzel, and it was my first or major role because I
Mop
was
and
the
muck it,
ghost
yes.
before. Yes, and Mucket, I was just like, okay, I'm going to try and stick to the script as much as I can. But this year, I feel I can sort of add little bits here and there, and yeah, it's because I'm made to feel so welcoming. You're not precious about the script. It's a case of okay, yes, there's a script, but yeah, as you said to it, we all contribute, we all add to it.
Absolutely. It's funny you should mention Mucket. The Bop and Mucket characters, the names came about from a tragedy. There was sort of a bit of a licking incident at work, and a colleague got a bit panicked and came out with a complete spoonerism. I must go and get the Bop and Mucket. I said, fantastic. She said, what? I said, I've got the comedy duo names. So yeah, brilliant. You
Oh,
never know where inspiration is going to fall and strike.
absolutely. Yeah. So as far as going back to this year with Pied Piper, we've talked about your favorite sequences from previous one. What is your
Mm.
favorite sequence? What should audiences look out for this year as far as Pied Piper is concerned?
I think this is a tough one because it's hard to know. Quite often, something becomes a favorite once you hear the audience reaction. At the minute, we don't know what the audience is going to like. But the thing that is making me giggle still, just watching people, is our chase sequence this year. Quite often, chase sequences can be a little bit messy.
Mhm.
But this year, our chase sequence to the Crazy Frog just makes me laugh. Just the way that the characters have developed their little movements across stage and so forth. So I think that's the one that I'm still giggling over.
Yeah, that is quite some sequence. I was terrified. We did rehearsals last night. I was terrified. I was going to fall over several times, but yeah, I stayed on my feet, and hopefully I will stay on my feet for the entire run. But yeah, if you want to, if people want to come and see if I do in fact fall over on stage, they can come and find some tickets. I believe that the links are now on the Alternate Shadows website. That's www.thealternateshadows.co.uk. I will put a link on the screen right now, as well as in the description of this video. So, um, so Helen, one more thing before we head off. Why should people come and see the Pied Piper this year?
Why should they come? It's family entertainment. We've got the January, February doldrum blues of post-Christmas. It's just a lot of fun. There's something in it for everybody, from your toddlers to grandma and granddad. So just come along, have a laugh, get involved. We're not performing to you, we're performing with you. You are part of the whole show. Each show will be different depending on the audience. So just come along, have a laugh, engage as a family.
Fantastic. I couldn't have said that any better myself. So I think what we'll do, we will end that here. So Helen, thank you very much for joining me today on the air. Hope that everyone enjoyed watching this. Remember that any information on Alternate Shadows, including how to get tickets for this year's Panto, the dates, the times, the locations, www.the or can't even speak, thealternateshadows.co.uk. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.